I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is understanding frame. Frame is a very important concept, and its existence, often invisibly, lies at the core of all relationships. It can also be kind of hard to define. For the time being, think of frame as the world in which the relationship exists. Are you living in her world, or is she living in yours? Now, to illustrate this concept, I'd like to offer an anecdote from a recent consultation I had with a listener. I've changed some details to protect his identity, and I'm offering this anecdote not to shame or belittle the guy, because the fact of the matter is that I take this call almost every day, but because his case is so emblematic of a situation that probably millions of men on this planet are experiencing right now. The details might change from person to person, but the core issue is extremely prevalent. So I get this call from a 30-year-old guy living in Washington State. He tells me that his situation is very urgent. Can't wait. He has to speak to me right away, and that he needs to make a decision in the next week. Apparently, he's been in a long-distance relationship with a 36-year-old woman living in Indiana for several years. At this point, the woman was more or less demanding that he move to Indiana and start a family with her, as she was approaching the end of her reproductive window. The guy was a mess. He told me that he loved and cared for the woman, and he didn't want to lose the relationship. It was the second relationship with a woman he had ever had. That said, he told me that they had broken up and gotten back together several times over the last few years, and that he had no interest in living in Indiana. He was concerned that without any friends or family of his own in the area, he would functionally have to spend what little time he had left over from work and the baby with her friends and family. At the point at which he called me, he was considering moving forward with the agreement as long as he could secure a promise from her that he could have an hour or two to himself every day. And after about 10 minutes, I just told him to stop talking. The man was so fully anchored at the woman's offer, so fully in the woman's frame, and so unaware of this reality that he would consider himself fortunate if he was allowed an hour of his own life every day for himself. He was negotiating for scraps, and he couldn't see it. And he also fully bought into the fallacy that it was either the offer the woman put on the table or nothing at all, which just isn't true. Though if it's successful, it's a powerful negotiation tactic. This guy was so behind the eight ball that he couldn't see anything beyond the limited options presented by this woman, which probably more than anything else is emblematic of a man who has completely abdicated frame. And a lot of guys find themselves in this situation. Now, this is going to sound harsh. This is going to sound cold. But what I counsel men to do in this situation is to ignore what the fuck the woman wants. Like pretend, even if just for a second, you don't even know what the woman wants. Erase her wanting from your memory and ask yourself, what do you want? And you know what? A lot of guys have never asked themselves this question before, at least as it pertains to women. And they don't usually have a ready answer. In fact, they often respond with this look of disbelief on their face that says, "You mean I have a choice?" Yes, my brother, you have a choice. You do have a choice. And you don't yet feel like you do because the only way that you've been able to secure your limited access to women is by catering to their desires. But this is not the only way, not by a long shot. Now, before I get any pushback for this suggestion, let's briefly consider what this woman is actually doing in this situation. She is functionally demanding, on the threat of revoking the relationship, that this man give up his life and enter into hers. In Indiana, she has her house and her job and her family and her friends, and she wants babies on her timeline. And the presumption is that the man continued to work to bankroll this lifestyle, to pay for what she wants. She's not going to take care of him for his sacrifices. The reward for his sacrifices is that he gets to take care of her. What's more, this woman knows this man's reservations and reasonable concerns, knows that he has no interest in living in Indiana. And she's demanding all of this anyway. While I'm asking this man to imagine what he would do if he was ignorant of this woman's desires, this woman is actually behaving like she could give a single fuck about what this man wants. This isn't hypothetical. This is actual. And she's doing this with total impunity. Like, she might not even think that what she's doing is selfish or unusual. After all, she's got to do her. This thought experiment works because it invites men to consider how they would live if they could live like a woman. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this video to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And you can also hit the thanks button. It's in the lower right-hand corner beneath this episode, and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this message. It's support from viewers like you that make all this happen. I don't have a lot of product placements or endorsements. I depend on your support to keep things going, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. So, how to respond to all of this? The first step is for men to seriously consider how they want to live their lives. It's not for me to tell people how to live. Each person has to figure out that for himself or herself. And I say their lives, I mean that in all of its aspects, not just as pertains to women or relationships. Ask yourself the following questions. Is there a woman in my vision? If so, what is she doing there? What is her role in your life? Are there children in my vision? If so, how am I going to raise them? What values do I want to bring into their lives, etc.? And once the man has figured out what he wants, once he has built his resources and extrapolated his lifestyle, he can then flip the script and make an offer to a woman. And just to be clear, this is not a simple role reversal. This is because in order to compensate for the sacrifices she might make to enter into his frame, the man typically provides provision, protection, and a better lifestyle than the woman could hope to provide for herself. These compensations are what typically differentiate women's offers from men's. Women's offers are generally, come into my world and take care of me. This is why women's offers generally suck. On the other hand, men's offers are typically, come into my world and I will take care of you. Big difference. Okay, back to my anecdote. Later in the session, I told this guy, look, imagine you were ignorant of what this woman wanted. Imagine you didn't know that this woman was approaching the end of her reproductive window and really wanted children in the near future. In the absence of this awareness, is starting a family something that you yourself would want for your life in the next year or two? Would you be thinking about this on your own? And when I ask this question, it's like a light bulb turned on above this guy's head, because in that moment, he realized that none of this was his idea. Moving to Indiana was not his idea. Becoming a father next year was not his idea. Spending all of his time with this woman's friends and family was not his idea. All of these ideas were put into his head by the woman. He would never even have been thinking about these things if it weren't for this woman. And these ideas had been insinuated into his mind so long and so effectively that he had forgotten that they weren't his ideas. And it was easy for him to slip more and more into her frame because he didn't have a strong conscious frame of his own with which to counter. However, in that moment, he remembered his own ideas and his response was immediate. No, I'd want to get my life in order, start a business, develop my social network, and explore relationships with different types of women. That's what he told me. There you go. That's what he wanted. My brothers, if you ever find yourself thinking, yeah, maybe I could do that, that thought is not your thought. It didn't come from you. It's not representative of your authentic desire. With authentic desire, there is no maybe. See it from the woman's perspective. She's not thinking, maybe I could want you moving to Indiana to take care of me. Maybe. There's no maybe here. She's very clear about what she wants, so clear that she's demanding it. Take a lesson from women, men, and learn the difference between your own authentic desires and those that have been insinuated into your mind by other people. Men, you thrive when you're in your frame. Figure out what you want and get to work. Get your life in order. Figure out your mission, your lifestyle, your living situation, your money, your health, your friends, and your social circle. Get those things squared away. And then when you meet a woman you like, you can say, this is me. This is what I can offer. If you like what you see, then come along for the ride. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gotten this far, you might as well like this episode and subscribe to this channel. You may also consider becoming a channel member with perks like the priority review of comments or booking a paid consultation. As usual, thank you for listening.